Welcome back, folks. We are, as you can tell, recording remotely. Once again, we're joined by our good friend, Beverly Lynn, CEO of Programs for Parents. Ms. Lynn, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Steve.
Beverly, let everyone know what Programs for Parents is and why it matters so much.
Programs for Parents is a child care resource and referral agency for Essex County, and we assist parents in helping them find child care. It could be in their community or where they work. But the important part is we try to educate parents so that they are informed consumers. In addition to that, we also are responsible for the child care subsidy program on behalf of the state of New Jersey. So in that program, we're serving about 10,000 children here in Essex.
So you've been part of our initiative dealing with child care issues, child care centers, affordability, quality matters, together with our friends and partners at the Terrell Fund. We're taping on the 24th of June. Put this in perspective for us. Child care centers are opening, but there's some anxiety about them opening. There are safety issues. Put that in perspective for us.
So, Steve, let me just say that the impact of COVID-19 has been very significant. When you shut down an entire industry over a short period of time, that is literally the backbone of our working families. We're in transition. That's the best I can say. We're in transition, and centers are looking at how to reopen and when to reopen. And there is anxiety. There's anxiety for the child care providers. There's anxiety for the parents as well.
Does this also point out the inequities in terms of child care for those in urban communities, fewer resources, and those who, frankly, and I've often said this about our children, every one of our kids here in Montclair, the wonderful early childhood experience, we're blessed, we're fortunate. The gap getting wider because of this?
Well, certainly, Steve, if you have the resources, you're a lot more able to identify and purchase the services that you want wherever you want them.
Right.
For our inner city children, however, their pickings are less. One great thing here in the city of Newark, we have public pre-K in our schools. And they're serving about 7,000 3- and 4-year-old children, and some of them are in child care centers, and some of them are in district school programs. But that still creates a challenge for us because we don't know when and how the public schools will reopen and whether they're going to be able to have full day pre-K for those youngsters that have been in their program. Now, mind you, we still have parents that have to work.
That's right.
We're pretty certain at this point that many parents are going to be going back to work and not working remotely from home, although I'm sure some will have that option.
Some will, some won't.
Some will, some won't. But I'm sure you know from school closing early, someone had to help your daughter with her homework and getting online and doing all of that. And parents were not prepared for that. And quite frankly, to work full time and to also homeschool your child has been very overwhelming.
So let's fast forward. Because I've been able to work remotely, obviously, we've been blessed to be able to do what we're doing, how we're doing, with a great team behind the scenes. My wife does some of her work online and some of it out on the road. But say, for argument's sake, we can't obviously predict the future. In the fall of 2020, say things get tight again, and the government, Governor Murphy and others, pull back and say you can't be out there. And those who are working out there and can't work remotely, they're stuck. And potentially childcare centers could have new rules again too. Am I engaging in creating a description of things that could never happen, or is that a potential reality?
That's a potential reality. And I think if we look back just a few months when all the centers closed down and emergency childcare was established, that was pretty much what was going on. If you were a frontline worker or essential worker, you had access to childcare in New Jersey. Any other parent that was not in that role had very limited access to childcare.
Even if parents are out there working, again, if we're home and we could do some, because we don't know what's going to happen with the schools.
That's right.
School-aged children. So my question really is this: what happens to those parents if they are able to go out and work? They have to work, they can't do it remotely, but they also can't engage in homeschooling. Isn't that a dilemma?
It is a dilemma. It is a dilemma. And parents had to really look at how they were going to do that over this last couple of months. I think the only good thing is that it was almost at the end of the school year.
Right.
But if we have to revisit this in the fall, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good.
Let me ask you this: longer term, Beverly, you dedicated your life to these children, to their families. If we do not do what needs to be done for children in urban areas with that fewer options in terms of childcare, what are the long-term implications if, for argument's sake, they're shut down and they can't be there for those kids?
Well, you know, Steve, all this work we've been doing, and you included, was about getting rid of that achievement gap. You know, there's been a gap for years. You know, we talked about the 30 million words and all the great resources children have access to now. When children are out of school, there is definitely a learning loss, and we don't want that to happen. And it mostly affects children who are in urban settings. Right. And so whatever we can do to minimize that, we want to make sure that we can do. But as you said, if something reemerges, then, you know, we're going to have to revisit this all over together. We're just very prayerful that does not happen.
Beverly Lynn, who is the CEO of Programs for Parents, has been with us from day one. A whole group of us from the media, not-for-profit organizations, foundations like the Terrell Fund, and others who care deeply about this issue. And it isn't an issue. Childcare, and I'm not going to get on my soapbox, it's about a lot of different issues. But Beverly, I can't imagine how much more challenging it would be if there were not folks like you on the front lines. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. I'm Steve Adubato. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by PNC, Grow Up Great, the Turrell Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Atlantic Health System, New Jersey Sharing Network, the North Ward Center, the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, the Fidelco Group, and by Johnson & Johnson. Promotional support provided by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association and by New Jersey Monthly,